All right. It is another great one on Black Belts and Boardrooms. Man, I've been excited. We got the game on. I just finished watching a couple of games from the NFL, but definitely excited about who we have on today. Amir, who do we have today?
Renard, so excited to have today our guest. And he's somebody who is not unfamiliar with high powered rooms. So I'm very excited today to talk to Mr. Kader Sakkaria. And Kader, welcome to Black Belts and Boardrooms.
Thank you. It's a pleasure meeting you, Amir and Vinod.
Well, Kader, first and foremost, we'll keep it lightweight first on the interview questions. So one of the things I wanted to learn about from you is, you've got quite a rich history in the work that you do in your community. But take us back to the beginning. What is Kader's origin story, if you will?
So I failed eighth grade. Okay. I usually pause there because people don't respect that from someone who ends up in the boardrooms and executive roles actually failed eighth grade, right? And at that age, failure didn't feel like a setback, right? It felt like an identity movement for me, right? Like it was just something that I could just see on my right side of the eye where my mom is kind of in front of the principal's office crying. And, I remember feeling uncertain, embarrassed, and unsure what comes next, right? Like, that's something. What made the difference for me wasn't a strategy or plan. Like it was my mother. Remember her crying on my right side of the eye that was actually staying there. So what she did was she stayed with me. She stayed patient, right? That's what pretty much all the mothers do, that kind of driving you to kind of create that. And then she was firm, but she was not letting go, right? She could have just let go and says, fine, you drop out of eighth grade, just go do what you want to do. But she stuck with me. And it's interesting, when I actually was walking the aisle, when I was getting my executive MBA from Kellogg and Northwestern, that both my mom and parents, and I could just still see her from my right eye on the side, right? That's a difference that's the person who actually made a significant difference in my life.
That's amazing. Kader, what you're describing sounds like both a difficult and a traumatic experience from a young person's perspective. And, being half South Asian myself, I can already hear, if it was my mom or dad, that yelling and screaming would have probably, been the beginning before it all calmed down and then there was a conversation. Was that kind of how it played out? Was the yelling and the screaming and then the calm and then the conversation?
100%, right? 100%.
Okay.
Like, because you could just see, because she didn't expect that from me, right? Like, no, she was expecting I'm the first kid in the family. So in like, to your point, like as far as, correlating the South Asian family structure, and Renard, you can actually also relate to this, right? Yes, the first kid in the family always carries the family's kind of baton, right? Like you're expected to kind of do that. And being that first kid and kind of seeing in that moment that what I was going through, she had her own moments that she went through, but then it's her firmness and her willingness to kind of sit with me and work through that whole process made who I am today at this point. So absolutely 100% I agree with you on.
Yeah. Something I've noticed as a pattern, Kader, is that all leaders, who are considered great in their area, and you are one of those people, they usually have a great support structure. Is it fair for me to say that your parents are that driving force that gave you that foundation to where you find yourself today?
100%, right? Part of one of the things that you know, I went through. So let me at least paint a picture of how some of the things that shaped myself. And it kind of blends in. And I love you guys' title, like Black Belts, which is Black Belts, the discipline plus the boardroom, which is what is going to get you there. And kind of correlating that to my personal life, right? Like, so, and I wrote about it recently in my LinkedIn when I was 11 years old. So I was actually selling coconut plants with my dad in a train station. So what we have to do is take this walk almost like 10 kilometers every day, sell it. And if we sell it, our family has food that day. And if not, like we don't have that for that day. Right. And, when I went there, it actually, standing in front of the train station trying to sell, you see a lot of rejection. People just walking by, they don't care, right? They don't want to buy anything. And part of it, actually, over a period of time, when you ask that, 4 or 5 levels of why questions of what is going on and why people are going to certain places, I found a group of pilgrims that actually go into Tirupati all the time. And this is one of the richest god, by the way. Like the temple kind of makes millions every day, like, from what they actually get from revenue. And then I found out people make their money and then they go and give it to the god as blessings, that return the blessings back in their way of paying forward. And one of the things that actually clicked in my head is like, hey, they're trying to do a one-time thing. What if I'm able to convince them that buying this plant and going and planting it, it's going to keep bearing fruits for years and years to come? That means they're going to get multiplication of what they're trying to do rather than just doing money once for all. That changed the behavior of pattern, that who I need to go knock in and how do I go sell, right? And so that actually started helping me. What it started showing me is to kind of start understanding your customer, understanding the market, plus getting a level of discipline, right? Not just try to do anything and everything that you can actually do, rather than getting that focus and getting to a level of discipline structure to focus around it as well. So that actually started shaping my career as I grew along. Most of the success that attributes to those kind of learnings that you actually had, right? Standing in front of a train station, right? And I remember going on trucks, on top of the trucks, because you have to safeguard the plans because of theft and loss, but you have to make sure you deliver it safely and securely to your customers. So kind of putting that kind of consistent way of delivering quality, making sure that you're willing to take risks to make sure that the customer is happy and things are getting delivered, that discipline shaped me a lot. So that's been, at least my parents gave me that. And, with growing in that kind of a culture helped me to kind of shape what I want to be as a leader and what I am as a leader right now as well.
No, I like that. Having that solid, what's the word I'm looking for? That solid background, a family background, gives you a lot of values that you take into that corporate world. I'm kind of curious. You've been in tech for quite a while. Was tech always your first, first industry or first technology you wanted to go? Did you want to do something else before you decided to get into tech?
So I was a salesman. I'm telling you, that's what I actually started my career with. And, but pretty much like all the way from my bachelor's to where I'm right now has all been tech. I wanted to go into more of entrepreneurship, and, kind of that's why the sales started in helping me to shape me up a little bit more. Um, but I've had, 3 companies I built and I exited them as well as part of it. So I was able to enjoy both, right? I built my financial foundation with tech, with bachelor's and master's in computer science. And then, still enjoy the passion of trying to build my construct. I always kind of look at me as I'm a builder. Like whether you want to build practices, you want to build, teams, you want to build center of excellences, right, or build companies. That's the mindset I come from. What do I need, and how do I need to build this out? So leveraging on that is what helped me quite a bit in the technology space, where you leverage technology but be able to kind of start building the dreams that you actually came from as well. So that's been very helpful for me overall.
No, I love that. I love that. I'm kind of curious, and I want to take a little step back into your history being in tech. And one part I told you off the air that really interested me was you being chief of staff of the office of the CIO in 2016 at Harrison Bank. And the reason it interests me so much because that's a different journey for not everyone who goes and wants to be a CIO. What made you decide to take a chief of staff position? What did you learn from it? And do you feel that other people who are moving up in and want to be a CIO, is that a good pathway for them?
That's a great question, Renat. The reason why for me is I've been tech where I started as, a lot of us do either in the development space or engineering space, right? Like that's what, like people in tech that I've seen. And that's how I started my career as well, right? Like started in the tech side of the business with application development, database administration was growing up. Now, one of the things that constantly kept bringing me up a little bit more was when I first started my first company, right? Like I was with Anderson and I'm like, okay, I'm done with all these traveling, did a lot of international travel. And I said, I want to do something on my own. I started my own small software services company. That's when I actually learned that, you know, there's a lot more of operational experience and portfolio management experience that you need to be able to successfully build a company, right? And if you have the passion, great. Like we'll figure it out. There's always an opportunity where you say, but what I'm not good at it, let me go buy it. Great. I mean, if you can afford it, that's an excellent way to do it. And that's, I would absolutely encourage that. One of the things that was very, very clear for me was that whole operational efficiency, where when you're running a business, how do you actually still try to look at the top line growth, but also look at your bottom line experience of how things are going to be optimized for you so that you can actually have and build a much more optimized organization. So then I was, very clear the two pieces is operational experience that you need and portfolio experience is something that you need to kind of get that horizontal way of how do you actually look at things. So I was actually running business operations on the technology side for BMO Harris at the time. And then the new CIO, she had joined. And I started having a discussion with her and saying, hey, you know what? I want to be able to kind of look at that horizontal view. I do want to become a CIO, but I just don't want to jump into it. I want to be able to get that level of experience to go look at it. So when we both were kind of looking at different positions that she had in her organization structure, this chief of staff was something that we actually came up together and saying, okay, how do you actually look at that horizontal portfolio view to kind of get both the OE experience plus the portfolio experience was that chief of staff role, where in the chief of staff role, you're actually doing nothing but proxying your CIO, right? That's what you're actually doing is you're basically carrying the baton of their brand value. You're trying to go and talk to your customers, both internal and external, and be able to get that and present that, right? So tomorrow, when I want to be a CIO, I want to be able to create a level of brand. And so I wanted to understand and live that brand experience that she was trying to build. So that's what the chief of staff actually helped me to give that, right? Because I used to deal with OCC, FRBs from an external regulatory perspective. We had internal customers that we had to deal, and then we had our end customers who are banking customers focused on their experience as well. And I got to live around everyone presenting my CIO's brand value and my organization brand value. So if anybody is actually going through the journey, I would absolutely look at chief of staff for something which can be the trajectory for you to go from what I would say senior leadership to an executive leadership role, which is you're a director, VP, senior VP, and flipping that over into the C title. That's the best way to do it because you will get that horizontal experience like that you will be able to see and live and be yourself on that experience, right? There's always this saying, right? And Harvard used to say, fake it till you make it. I changed that a little bit and said, fake it till you're it, right? So you
Hmm.
have to be that it. And then only way I would say, from my experience, has been the chief of staff role.
No, that's very interesting. I've seen so many positions like that, but like I said, you're the first person I've ever had a conversation who actually lived that role to just understand that a lot more. Because a lot of people, especially in any position, think, okay, if I'm a senior director, if I'm at this position, the next one should be CIO automatically. And I do tell everyone, I tell my team, myself that you need to the better you know the business, the better off you'll be. If you understand what the business needs in, then you can be a great executive. But if you just think it's tech and I just keep my head down and this is what I do for my department, I don't think you'll be able to elevate to that level. So no, I think that's very interesting. I would like to see other people go that route, myself, seeing if that worked for them as well. So no, that definitely understand. But now what you're doing now as the global head of Gallagher, can you give us a day in the life of what you do for Gallagher now?
So Gallagher, just for everybody who doesn't know, so we are the third largest, the fourth largest based on the day, based on our stock price, right, of the world insurance brokerage. So we do all the way from property casualty, specialty insurance, to employee benefits, to third-party administration of claims and reinsurance as well. So we actually do a whole gamut of work that we work in. One of the exciting part for us, at least within our organization, is very strong, stable executive leadership. Like even like, the grandson of Gallagher is still the CEO of that company right now. So there's a level of culture and there's a Gallagher way that we actually follow and bring it, right? That's amazing where you can actually have that North Star and the culture preserved and then be continuously, growing. We do acquisitions, about 60 to 90 acquisitions every year. So we are an engine. We are able to kind of clockwise just go through it. And a lot of our executive leadership can do this in their sleep, like once they kind of identify a pipeline, how they go through it. So the reason I'm giving you the background, like all of that, is it's all about data now, right? Like data and AI and digital is what the transformation journey that's going to drive right now. My global CIO, that's his top three priority: digital, data, and AI is what you ask him. So I'm in that space of data where we're actually bringing all of the data together in one place, so we can actually give a lot more deeper insights for you to be able to, either focus on your customer experience or look at speed to market, right? Or even looking at products that you have and trying to understand the type of products that you're going to be selling. So that is what my team and my area is focused on, is building all the data together so we can actually drive a lot more deeper insights, leveraging the tools and technology that we have. So we have a pretty unique structure because we are kind of divisional and regional based organization, because, like the 5 divisions that I talked about. And then we are also regional based because of security and privacy that comes in, and then data sovereignty that comes along with that as well, right? Which is very, very respected within our organization, whether you look at Europe on GDPR, or you look at LATAM, which is more data sovereignty, and same with APAC as well, data sovereignty driven. But we try to preserve those, but still be able to get a level of information that we can actually use to build a stronger product and a stronger customer experience, is what is actually my team has been focused on driving it.
So, Kader, a little shift here in question. How do you maintain all this energy? Because I'm listening to you speak and there's all this energy. How do you do this? Like, is there a ritual that we should all learn about?
No, I'm trying to learn every day, right? Like, that's, see, the thing is always, I have this 1% philosophy that I learned, right? Like, which is, for me, that has been, a deeply changing, behavioral changing movement within my, how I structure, right? So it's never been about massive overhauls, right? Or, you know, and not the motivational speeches and all that, right? Like that does have an impact to that, right? But what does is like that small, that intentional shifts that we can actually do starts changing and creates the ripple effect, right? Like they used to say, at least back in India, is like, that small drops of water makes the ocean, right? Like it's that small incremental value that you actually create that creates that ocean of change. It is. So that is one thing that I've actually been doing, is always about like, what is that 1% that I can actually change this week? And that's going to help to build my momentum overall. And some people take it more jokingly. I mean, just for example, right? Try, if you have your watch in your left hand, try wearing it in your right hand for 1 week, just 1 week. Just try it, right? And then start doing that. It's going to be the most uncomfortable 3 days that you're going to go through. But then the fourth day, you're like, when somebody asks for the time, you're actually going like this, not left, right? So now your brain is slowly correcting. It's all about that incremental change that you actually start building that out. creates a level of energy because your brain is now trying to relearn itself. Why do we all lose energy is because of complacency, right? Because you're using the same routine, doing the same thing, right? That discipline is important, but if you can make one small change at a time, it actually creates more and more energy to you. At least that it's done for me, by the way. So that keeps me excited. That's the reason, like I also, the other thing that I also kind of use most of the time is when you surround yourself with a lot of high energy people, automatically your body just resonates. It's all about energy management, right? Um, this one thing about my eldest daughter told me, was it like maybe about 3 years ago? And I was talking to her something else, right? And she was getting ready for her exams. And she was kind of, initially talking about about one of her friends, whatnot, like, how some, friends are always kind of having their own challenges with each other. She was talking about that, but then she made the statement. So dad, like, you know what? Yes, we are having some issues, but right now I'm not wasting my energy on her right now. I'm going to spend my energy on the exam and then I'll figure out what I want to do. So that actually helped me kind of clicked real quick again for me. It's like, how do you create and make sure that you're not wasting your energy on things that you're not going to be productive with, right? Automatically you have energy left because otherwise all these other things are going to start draining your energy, which you should not. Steve Jobs does it. Elon Musk does it phenomenally, where it's the noise versus like what you're going to work, right? And I'm still not to those guys' level. I'm 100% not there, but I'm slowly trying to get that 1% change to get to that energy.
That's amazing. So I want to bring us back to something you said about the culture at Gallagher. You said the three priorities, if you asked your CIO, was data, digital, and AI. And I'm reminded of Peter Drucker, and I think the quote is something along the lines of strategy eats, or culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? So what are some of the things, culturally speaking, because that's obviously a topic that every leader thinks about, is what kind of culture am I building? What are some of the key lessons you can share with us on building a great culture in any organization at any level?
So first of all, it's clarity, right? As long as you're very clear on what you want the team to do and focus, then you can actually get the team to start rallying up behind you to start putting that energy into it. So I always focus, at least, and then when I talk to, and my CIO does this great, like Mark Bloom, he does a great job with that. Like he's very clear on what did not start. That's why he was, he always talk about growth enablers versus operational enablers. He's very clear on what those are. So growth enablers are digital, data, and AI, and then operational, enablers are focused on support functions that's going to be able to drive what we need to drive to keep the lights on. So he does a phenomenal job in just having that clarity, right? And second is what I would say is inclusiveness, right? Where you're including your teams as part of that decision-making process, because that is an important part that a lot of us in an executive level, when you're actually under a lot of pressure, you just focus on, okay, I need to solve this problem. No, you don't need to by yourself. That's why you have the team, you have the larger ecosystem to be able to come and contribute into that value creation process, right? So that is one area that I, at least I would see strongly. And, Gallagher encourages that significantly. That's one thing is like if you go and look at our Gallagher way, within the first like top 10 of that priority is we are a sales and an operations organization. That means we need to be able to look at customer experience. We need to be able to solve their problems, which they're having difficulty solving. So how do we solve? That's what the expertise that we bring into that play, right? So, once you actually have clarity, once you have the inclusiveness of how and creating a culture of problem solving, and then the third, like that works in our technology organization within Gallagher that our CIO focuses on is fail fast culture, right? It's okay to try something new, right? And if you're failing, let's fail fast, but then be able to build on that lessons and quickly adapt to be able to do what we need to do to support to our customer base as well. So I would say those are the top three. I mean, I can go on and some of that, but there's a top three that actually helps define, because clarity, inclusiveness, and being able to get your team excited more to kind of focus on what we are trying to solve, which is customer problems.
Those are great points to latch onto. I think you as a data person, you have a unique perspective, and I want to pivot a little bit into the question of AI. So one of the things that I'm, thinking about is, if I look at a hammer is a tool I can grab off the shelf, do whatever I need to do and put it back. It doesn't change. The hammer is the hammer. It doesn't change the environment that it's in. AI does, and it does it dramatically. So it's not like the hammer where I can take it off the shelf and I can put it to work and then put it back. It will change the environment. It's a very extractive technology because it requires great deals of data, great deals of energy to function and operate. And as you think about culture and the mental health and the safe spaces that exist today, how do you see AI changing it, if anything?
So AI, here's how I actually put, right? So remember when we are young and our focus has always been about like Superman and like Batmans of the world with superpowers, right? And so they were in, the fictional characters that year. Those fictions with human plus current AI, we have that superhuman power right now, to be very frank, right? And that's what the game changer is how do you actually bring that human and AI knowledge together to be able to create that superpower is the important part that I actually look at. It is going to revolutionize like every part of like, unlike how some of the industrial revolution, computer revolutions and all that happened was it started with affecting certain verticals, certain industries, and then it spread over a period of time. This is actually going to horizontally start changing how things are, right? The one thing that I want to be very clear up front is like, I'm still, of a belief that AI is not there to take people's job. It's there to kind of enhance your job, right? And be able to leverage. It's not that people who are going to be basically not getting jobs is like, oh, because of AI. No, it's because you don't understand AI. Might be that is why you might not be getting the job. So because, and I see that right on a regular basis, like if you look at operational experience side, look what Copilot can do these days, right? It's amazing of how much of your administrative time that you actually can save by having it do some of the agents to kind of do what you need. So you actually prioritize. And we talked about time and energy, right? Like it's about where do you spend your energy on as well. The second thing is if you look at it from a growth aspect of it, what can AI do to kind of be able to contextualize the data that you have to provide much more deeper insights than what you can actually do in the past? So historically, if you look at the amount of work that took for you to get a report, and why did you want to report? Because you had 5 questions, right? And so either your boss or your manager or somebody else was asking those questions. And you as a person is supposed to basically have data set to prove those 5 questions where they are, right? And that's all we did. So we went, looked at the data, we mined the data, we transformed the data, that we put it in, and then we wrote reports in like all these visualization tools to be able to get that. And then we could just show every day to our whoever asked those 5 questions. Now, once they change one of those questions, now you have to go back to the cycle again, right? Go back and redo that cycle and then redo that cycle. Now, we have come to the world where you want to start interacting with the data and asking the question that is more important based on the business need of today and now, right? Like there's 2 different contexts that comes along with it. And that's where I feel that we're actually able to build that data out and then be able to leave it to the consumption side, where you can ask the question on demand, or you can ask the same 5 questions, right? It's going to give you a contextualized data back to you and answers to it. Or if you say, well, based on that, I want to know about this, I want to know about this, I want to know about this as well, you can dive deeper. You don't need another report to be generated. You can actually start interacting with the data. That actually creates a level of superhuman, right? Remember, at least when I remember, and one of my, thing when, the chief, you got me stuck into the chief of staff stuff, Renard, right? Like, when I was in that area right now, and one of our, question on wealth management folks were, we used to send folks to our high net worth people, and then they'll ask a question. We'll say, oh, great. Here's a set of 5 questions we have answers for, but all the other questions we'll go back and we'll basically come back. Imagine if I can answer them right away. That means I've created a much more better customer experience. they're not questioning you as the service that you're providing, because they came to you because of the service you can provide and the expertise that you have. So that kind of behavioral changes right now, it's going to be enhancing the customer experience as well, right? And for the people who are actually supporting this and their customers, they're able to get to the data quickly and faster. So if you look at the thread, it's that human plus AI is going to create that superhuman power that you can actually leverage and build a strong connection with your customer base, in being able to deliver significant value to them, right? I remember, one of the conversations my CIO was telling, like, so we have this thing called Power of Gallagher, where our top 3 to 5,000 sales folks, they all get together and they talk about some of the successes, but also some of the opportunities that we can be focused on. And so our CIO had presented where our AI to create a dossier for our customers and be able to, that used to take 2 to 3 weeks of analysts kind of working through. Now they were able to do that like in few hours, be able to get the data collected and sent to the customer. So they were spending most of their time in making sure that the customer experience is looking at rather than doing research, right? So there's a lot of things like that you can actually look at, which is AI is going to add significant value. So, you know, from my perspective, I would still like to reiterate again is AI is not there to take away jobs. It's actually going to enhance your job, right? That's a different mindset.
Yeah, definitely. So, was there an aha moment for you when you were, learning about AI that says, "Oh my goodness," what was that aha moment if you had one?
No, that's a very interesting question, right? For me, the aha moment was the time that it's part of the thing that we've been talking about is time management, right? Like we all kind of look at it from a work perspective. If I had more than 8 hours, right? That's what we always look at, and invariably we bleed. We're not like specifically when you get into executive level, you're not a 9 to 5 job person anymore, right? But what does that do? That actually interferes with your work and life balance, right? Because what pandemic did was it actually helped us to kind of relearn how we can actually remotely work and still be successful together. But then what it also did is it actually made your time 12, 15, 14 hours of work because you were just in comfort zone. You were focused on building that. My aha moment was that, hey, if I can actually take a lot of my administrative work and have an agent or an agentic AI that actually can take over, that means I can still try to do a good work and life balance to go and spend some time with my family. I'm a big proponent of spending time with your family, talking about energy and how do you get re-energized. That's one of the areas that actually gets you the re-energy. It actually recharges you. So for me, the aha moment was that I can get recharge on a regular basis and not do some of the mundane work, but actually have the intelligence which is available to do it.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now, you hit a good point. We talked about the pandemic, how it showed companies like, hey, we don't have to have everyone in the office for us to be successful. We found that out, and now we have AI. What is the new what's the word I'm looking for? What do you see far as having AI and the new version of what a CIO or an executive will look like going forward now that AI is basically not going anywhere? What is that going to look like for the new executives?
So the new from my perspective, right? It's all about augmentation, right? It's about like, if you're able to focus on how can you actually augment the work that you're doing, your team is doing, and then have AI as a leverage point, right? And you have to have a leverage point of what is driving it, right? Whether it's a growth enabler or is it an operational efficiency enabler, right? So you have to look at it from those angles. And if you're able to contextualize that and paint the picture and tell a story with very clear, you know, kind of a North Star roadmap to your teams, that is what is going to make the biggest differentiator, right? Because one of the changes that I've always seen becoming a CIO is being focused on creating your North Star, creating your roadmap to get there, and then being very clear about what that is, right? And that's one thing. But now you have to add this augmentation mix to that. That's what is going to make the biggest differentiation as a CIO, CTO, even like any executive role when you're actually going in, is that is going to be the biggest differentiator for you.
Yeah, I'll add to that, and in a conversation I had that now that AI and basically a business can't operate without tech. It doesn't exist anymore that you can have that. So every executive has to have some knowledge of tech. Not saying they have to be at the level of a CTO or CIO, but they have to understand the landscape and, like you say, where AI is going to go to understand how the business is going to move going forward. So it's very important, like we were talking about, that every executive understands where AI is going to take the business, how technology is going to take the business, because we're at a time, and it's been that for over 30 something years, that a business cannot operate without technology. Doesn't exist anymore. No one has a ton of file cabinets anymore with a bunch of papers. No one's doing that anymore. Technology is what is basically the motor of a business, and it's just that technology that takes them forward. I'm kind of curious, as you as a leader, and what are you looking for the next leader, the next person up? What are some characteristics that you are looking for? Hey, this person can be the next CTO or CIO. What do you look for as you being that leader?
So one of the things that I always, at least tell the people that I talk to is, you know, don't tell you're a technologist, right? You're a business person with a strong technology acumen, right?
Mm.
That's a different factor, right? Because we always talk about, I want to be in the table, not in the menu. Great. How are you going to be in the table is to have that business acumen that you can actually drive your conversation with. So one of my biggest things with all the technologists that I talk about, please do not go and tell you're a technologist and I don't understand, and then use all these jargons of what the technology is all about. You actually, simplification is the key factor. If somebody is able to simplify a complex process into a size that a business person or an average person can consume, then that is the key trait that I look for. Technology is a skill. You can always build that out, but you need to be able to kind of have that kind of simplicity approach that you need to take. My thing is, you're not a technologist, you're a business person with a strong technology acumen.
I like that. Now I heard you say a phrase in there. What was it? You don't want to be the table. You want to be on the menu.
Yep.
What was that
So
one again?
yeah. So the thing is, like, it's always like I would rather be at the table rather than be the menu, right? I don't want to get eaten, but I want to be in the table to basically have the conversation.
Oh, I got to write that down. I got to write that one down. I
Yeah.
And
like
I
that
took it
one.
from somewhere else. It's not my original phrase. I did take it from somewhere else.
That's a good phrase. Amir, we're gonna have to take that one. We gotta take that. That's a good one. I'm gonna have to
I, wr-
use that in a meeting or something.
I already wrote it down, Renard.
You wrote it down. I like when I heard it, I was like, I like that one. Okay, okay. And one of the other question I want to ask, like I'm looking behind you, you look like you're an avid reader, which we all are on this show. What are some key books that has helped you professionally and helped you personally?
So the first book that my dad ever gave to me is coming from a South Asian culture. Don't say yes when you want to say no. That was the first book that he gave me when I was actually leaving in my flight back to heading to the U.S. Culturally, we are used to that, like where we always try to say yes and not want to say no because that's more of disrespecting the other person that you're talking to and all that. But but that is something that, like, it kind of got ingrained with me. Is like, don't say yes when you want to say no. Some of the recent books that's kind of helped me is, one is Executive Presence, right? It's about the gravitas that you actually bring to the table, what you're trying to do, and how. Well, because I think as technology leaders, what we tend to do is we are so focused on what we are trying to do. Sometimes, like, we forget to kind of create simplified way of how do you actually quit. Gravitas is not all about the suit that you're wearing and everything else. Yes, like a level of presence makes that. but it's also about the knowledge that you're carrying that you can bring to the table to simplify too. So executive presence has been one of the significant, at least, help that's at least given me to kind of reflect back on and how I would look at things. And if I, it's always, if I got to rewind my biological clock, where would I start? And would be, some of the key outputs of that as well.
It's a good book. I have read it. I have it. I would recommend that book to anyone. I usually, and Amir knows this. A lot of people say executive presence. I say executive swagger. So,
Like that.
along,
I'm going to
yeah,
steal that.
along. Oh man, I'm gonna say it's trademarked. So
And I'll
it
pay
is.
you royalty, man, as long as
Hey,
you
there
give
you
me.
go. But no, that's what I say. And it's executive presence is one of the things that I keyed on in my career and read that book and I always say I turned executive presence into executive swagger and Amir over there he has a lot of executive swagger as well and it's like you said it's the knowledge, yes, the suit, yes, people see you visually and understand you, but it's when you're having those conversations in those rooms and understanding how to simplify it for people who are at the executive level and might not understand tech as much as you do, but you simplify it the way they say, okay, I understand. I know where we need to move. So it does make sense.
No, this is a great segue, Renard. Speaking of executive swagger, I know you have a book that's in the works right now, so we'll definitely be looking forward to that one. But on the topic of a book, Kader, I know you've co-authored a book as well, if I'm not mistaken, right? Chaos by Design.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. So, part of it is, to your point behind, about the aha moments that you have, right? I was going through a massive digital transformation journey, and there was three of us, that we were working together in driving the transformation, where it's primarily driven based on brokers, like real estate brokers, and like that's what, and it's they have they're in a lot of high stress, high power. And during the time, like we were actually going before pandemic was getting there, and there was signs of discussions of, entire countries being shutting down and world being shutting down. And like, how would you actually react to that kind of a situation? And because, real estate is always about going and physically touching, feeling, walking through. That's what it actually gave you, right? And how do we actually change that experience to more of a digital, but still be able to give that type of experience of personalizing things to, and being able to do that part. And it was an amazing journey that we went through. And so that actually led me to be able to do this. And part of the thing, right, the whole executive swaggers that you guys were talking about is, I call this, Josh. So Josh it's spelled like Josh, Josh, but it's called, in Hindi, it's called Josh, which is that kind of, what you call like grit or thing that you actually have in you, in driving some of these transformations, right? Being able to understand and work with the, different types of customers, and then understanding it, but then do it with a grit of how do you change that culture through that, right? When the whole world was kind of going, in a different direction, focused on different things, obviously, but then how do you preserve that culture and experience to be able to go with? That was great. So for me, I said like, hey, I need to put this in a piece of paper because, you know, I'm not sure that I wasn't sure at the time. I'm not sure. I wasn't sure, like, how do you actually give that a level of education, right? Back to what you learned from. Um, so that's what drove. And more than that, I'm actually more excited about Renard's book right now. So I want to see, like, I want to get the first signed copy, man. I mean, I know Amr will get it. I know that, like, and he just made me feel happy saying that I did get one of the first signed copies.
I will make sure you have one. I will make sure of that. Yeah, definitely. And I appreciate that. I hope other people will appreciate it as well when it comes out. So definitely, I will make sure you get a signed copy.
Awesome. That'd be awesome.
So, Josh is such a so I'm familiar with that word, Kader. And I wanna tie that back to the energy comment you made earlier because Josh really speaks to energy. At the end of
Exactly.
the day, you can't have grit without mental health, strong mental health, without the physical abilities and the discipline. So when you think about digital transformation on that topic, it takes all of those things, the mental, the physical. How do you see digital transformation? Is it more of a, here's the solution, let's go build it? Or do you see it more as a cultural shift within an organization?
See, to part of digital transformation, in even any transformation, if you look at it, right, it's a mindset change, right? It is not like it cannot be a technology driven or obviously business drives a lot of these changes based on the business climate, but it is always about a mindset change, right? And the way you bring mindset changes through cultural, just purely culture, like you mentioned, and is like culture eats strategy for breakfast. That it is very true, right? You can have the best of the best strategy and the best of the best technology, but then if your culture within the organization is not in a position to adapt to it, and you've not spent your time to kind of work and educate your team to kind of understand and then make that smaller changes, right? As humans, we are not built to basically do complete overhaul changes, right? That incremental changes is what kind of creates that behavioral changes over a period of time. So it is all about that mindset change, right? And that is why, if you look at large tech companies and all that, why do they spend so much energy on mental health, right? Like, because when you actually have the right mindset, and if you have the mental energy that's actually there, then the change becomes easier one step at a time. So that is what drives a lot of that behavioral changes. Because for me, like, when we were trying to do our digital transformation part, it was always like, at least at the time, Mike, we had a corporate CIO, and he was driving the cultural change, right? And saying, this is what we need to do. Here's what the North Star that we are trying to do. Here's what the impact of what that change is going to create, and so create at a level of clarity. So then we were able to kind of come back and basically drive the roadmaps to be able to get there. So a lot of education, and the fantastic thing, like, the CIO at the time is with Rizwan Akhtar. And Rizwan actually did agile coaching. He was a CIO for that area, but he did agile coaching for all of his executives. So when they used to do it, offsites, so he actually defined what agile mindset means. It's not about a technology. The people always, the moment you say agile, they actually attach it to Scrum methodology. That's a methodology, right? But agile is a mindset. That's a much more cultural, impactful thing, rather than just trying to look at technical methodologies to do it. So that is something that was important, where to create that level of disciplined thinking that you can actually start looking at is driving those changes and rolling up your sleeves and doing it yourself if you need it, right? So that's been, at least I've been blessed where I had a lot of the CIOs and CTOs that I work with is being, helped me to kind of get, when I became a CIO and CDO, and my focus has been, how do I create that cultural change, 1% philosophy, again, one step at a time.
Very good, very good. So I know we're getting close to time, and I ask everyone. We always ask, "What is your theme music?" What does that music get you ready for the day? Either it's getting to work or spending time with family. What's the music that gets you ready for the day?
So I've been thinking about that since I know we started the conversation a little bit when you were talking about, um, and the thing that just kept coming playing back in my head again and again is "Lose Yourself" by Eminem. I don't know if you guys have heard that song. It's about focus, it's about preparation, it's kind of owning that moment, right? Like, that's what the song is all about. So that's what I actually, like, because that kind of represents who I am and what I like to do. So if you know, I think that's it. That's what I would just say is my theme music.
I like it. I like it. I'm an Eminem fan. I have been an Eminem fan for years. Definitely know it. I know Amir does as well. And definitely have to say we definitely appreciate you being on Black Belts and Boardroom. It has been a pleasure today. We have learned so much from you today. Like I said, the one of the things that I wanted to point out was part of your background And, we love talking about AI. We probably could have talked about AI for another hour on our podcast, but thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
No, thank you. Thank you, Renard. Thank you, Amber. What you guys are doing is a great job, specifically connecting black belts and boardrooms together. So I know I wish you guys the best, and uh, thank you and it's been an honor being with your podcast.
Thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you. And to our Black Belts and Boardrooms audience, we will see you on the next one.